Today I'm really here to educate you to an internet revolution. I'm sure a lot of people have said that before in the past, but the world is changing. In the last 10 years, there's been an increase of 1 billion internet users, which sounds a big number, but when you consider that's only 1/6 of the population of the world, there is still a huge amount of growth in the internet to come. 200 billion emails sent each day, 500 million users of Facebook, and if you equate that as a country, it will be the third largest in the world, just behind India. So the growth of the internet has been massive. I think we all know that. In OECD countries, developed markets, 65% have internet penetration there. However, when you think about it, the rest of the world is only at 18%. So this huge amount of growth still pent up in the global space. So the internet's changing. But as you've seen the growth of the internet come through and the content grow, the baseline for that, the infrastructure, the DNA in which it runs on, which is the domain name system, has really not changed for the last 20 years. It's still the same as it was. So just to sort of, I apologize if it sounds fairly basic, but I will just quickly remind you of how the DNS came about. Domain name system was to make sure that it was intuitive to surf the internet. It was the ability to be able to find a website relatively easy, rather than trying to remember an IP address, a string of numbers that if you had to try and remember all of them, you wouldn't be able to. You'd have a very thick file of facts and data. So what's the main component within a domain name system? And again, I apologize if this is sort of basic for everyone, but primarily it revolves around the top level domain name. And in the world, there are 248 country code top level domain names in which you navigate. So for Australia, it's .au. For Singapore, it's .sg, Malaysia, .my. There are 21 top-level generic domain names, including .com, .info, .net. But we have a problem. There are about 200 million domain names under registration in the global space. About 90 million, about 70% within its space, .com owns. So if you think about it a bit like real estate, all the good waterfront space is gone. And I'm sure that all of you in the room have been building a campaign, and you've gone, great, I have a fantastic idea and want to use something, and then you've gone to go and register the domain name, and you found that you can't do it. And from that, you will then compromise. You will then input a dash, you'll change the wording that you really want to use, and guess what? It currently becomes unintuitive for the user to be able to then look and identify the right domain space. So then what happens? Well, okay, fine. You then have to spend more money on search engine optimization, search engine marketing, and so it becomes much, much harder in the future to be able to do marketing. And that's happening right now. So just think what it's going to be like in the next 20 years when another 10 billion people come onto another billion users come onto the internet. So from a .com perspective, it's sort of had its day, and to a degree. You're never going to run out of domain names within .com, but guess what? It's becoming harder and harder to use it, and harder to be able to make it useful in your marketing. So you need to go beyond .com. Now, I've just come back from Dubai, and they have a fantastic way of doing this. They changed the whole game plan. They say, okay, I can't get real estate on the waterfront anymore, so guess what? I'm going to buy, I'm going to make new real estate. So this is the Palm in Dubai, and they've decided to change the whole game plan, which is exactly what is going to happen in the middle of next year. There will be a new top-level domain name program that's going to be introduced by ICANN. ICANN, the global governing body of the domain name system, they're the Internet Corporation of Assigned Names and Numbers, and their job is to increase competition, choice, and ensure freedom on the internet. How this is going to break down, there's going to be three areas. There's going to be corporates, there's going to be geographics, and there's obviously going to be generic words that are going to be available. So one of the early brands that came out and said they were going to do this, Canon, have come out and said they're going to do this. Deloitte have said they're going to come out and do this. And a lot of other clients that we're talking to are saying they're going to do this as well, but maybe not holding their hand up just yet in order to make sure they get a best crack at their own top-level domain name. Similarly with geographics, we were talking to Abu Dhabi the other day, and they're going to try and use this very much to position themselves within the tourist industry and define their own entity on the site, on the internet. And similarly within generic words, there are going to be entrepreneurs and online visionaries who are going to want to get into the $600 million market space that .com currently own. And I'll give you an example of just how much pent-up demand there is in the marketplace for generics. Columbia, which is .co, was recently redelegated to be a generic top-level domain name. And within 2 months, they had 400,000 registrations. So if they charge roughly, I think it's about $10 a domain name, you can see how profitable it can be to be in the generic space. So ICANN have already done this. They're putting this in place, and we'd like to see this launched sometime in the middle of next year. But that's really only half the story. We've only got half the way. If you think about the rest of the world who don't speak English as their first language, which is 60%, don't use English as their as their alphabet, this is denied to them, apart from the highly educated in those countries. Most people won't be able to navigate the internet because they don't actually understand English, which is a little bit unfair. So ICANN have already sorted that out already, and you can now get internationalized domain names. So in the UAE, for example, at the moment, you can buy .ae, or you can buy the Arabic version, which is .emirat. And this is rolling out as we speak. And so that will also be applied across the top-level domain name program. So you can get highly localized top-level domain names going forward. So overall, they're going to increase access, it's going to increase communication, recall, and ultimately make it easier to navigate. So the DNS is caught up for the future, and we're going to future-proof that. But we are about to witness a revolution, and it's something that's going to change. And I do urge you to all look at this in a bit more detail. The reason why AusRegistry are involved, because we ultimately run registry solutions. We run the .au, the .qa, and the .ae registries. But what are the key benefits for clients? Ultimately, customer engagement, the ability to have a deeper relationship with them. You think of how IBM, you'll be able to just type in .ibm and search straight to that website. You don't have to remember, it's going to become ultimately intuitive. So when you go out and do marketing, instead of having to compromise on the URL you want to apply for and use within a marketing campaign, you can choose and use whatever you like, because guess what? You own all of those domain names. You can make up whatever you like because you are the guys who actually decide how that's going to be. Financially, obviously, just talking about how much spend you have on SEO, how much spend you have. I was talking to NBC, Middle East Broadcasting Company, the other day, and they were saying, this is fantastic, because now I don't have to go out and buy domain names every time I put a new program on. I don't have to go and buy names around the globe in every top-level domain name, such as .com, .info, .org. I just have to buy it in one space. Security control. Banks, massive play for them. It eradicates phishing. So basically, when you send an email or you send someone to a website, let's say HSBC, if HSBC is not on the far right-hand side of the dot, guess what? It isn't from the bank. So don't go there. And banks can therefore educate their customers that way. Finally, social networking. You can define your own social network space. And obviously future-proofing. It takes yourself away from this morass of .com and away from this confusion. You can have clarity and singularity. So when's it happening? Middle of next year, Q2. There will be a 45-day window for application. I understand. 45-day window for application. And that's it. The likelihood of this coming around is maybe the next 10 years. It's not going to happen again. It really is only open for big corporates and those who need to play in a bigger space. It costs quite a bit of money. Just to apply, it costs $185,000. So it's not for the faint-hearted. It's something that you have to understand you're owning a part of the internet, and therefore you have to make sure you're robust, because if you fall over, you can lose a lot of people's business that way. Recommendation is, if clients are going to do this, they need to think about it right now, because it takes about 6 months for them to apply and set themselves up, and when the opportunity turns up, they need to be ready. So if they wait until middle of next year, it will be far too late. So the question is, are you guys ready for it? And more importantly, are your clients ready for it? So we need to go beyond .com, and the future of the internet in the next 18 months will change radically. Thank you.